Our next speaker, Tamara Levitt, has a job title that sounds both incredibly cool and a little high pressure. She is head of mindfulness at Calm, and Calm is a meditation app that has been downloaded by over 20 million people around the world. Mark Zuckerberg has probably checked that one out. Now, being responsible for the mindfulness of 20 million people might sound like a daunting job, but Tamara's up for the challenge. When she isn't bringing the Zen at Calm, she is a speaker. She's the author of 2 children's books, including Happiness Doesn't Come from Headstands. When change is coming at you fast and furious, cultivating the ability to achieve mindfulness is a crucial skill. Here to help us understand the connection between a clearer headspace and our capacity for change, please help me welcome Tamara Levitt.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Hi. It's a pleasure to be here today. Today we're going to be exploring the power of mindfulness. But I thought I'd start by sharing the story of what led me here today. So it was a spring day back in 1991 that I found myself sitting in a group therapy room at an eating disorder center called Sheena's Place. It was a small room with a blue carpet, and I was one of 10 women seated in a circle on the floor. And we were all waiting for a mindfulness instructor named Lou. And I came to the center that day full of teenage angst and anger. I had a difficult childhood, and by the time I'd reached my teenage years, I'd developed anxiety and depression and a full-blown eating disorder. I was rebellious, nonconformist, and essentially anti-everything. So looking back, given how closed and defiant I was, it's kind of a miracle that I was open to attending this 8-week introduction to meditation course. You know, at the time, I didn't know exactly what to make of it. I knew that the Beatles meditated, but no one that I knew personally did. And it certainly wasn't on the cover of Time magazine like it is today. So I was skeptical, but I decided to give it a go. Eventually, our instructor arrived. He was an unassuming man with brown hair and a gentle demeanor, and he quickly put us all to ease. He told us, "I'm not here to convince you of anything. Meditation isn't a strange or cultish activity. It's a practice of purposefully and non-judgmentally paying attention to the present moment. It's about returning to the here and now over and over and learning how to be with whatever's in our experience as a path to peace." And so I thought to myself, okay, I could use some of that. And so then I closed my eyes, and he led us all through a simple 20-minute meditation. And the first thing that I discovered was that this seemingly simple practice was way more difficult than it seemed. You know, if you've ever meditated, you'll know that our mind doesn't like to stay present, right? It likes to scramble all over the place. So there I was, you know, with my thoughts racing all over, and after a little bit of time, eventually they began to settle, and my body began to relax. And then rather my thoughts getting all swept up in worries and rumination and planning, for a brief period of time, they were right in the moment. They were right in the breath. And there, I found a rare moment of peace. A type of peace that I hadn't been able to find in vanilla milkshakes when I was binge eating, or in tequila sunrises when I was looking for an escape. So I had this brief glimpse into what peace felt like, and it set me off on a decades-long journey. I started studying meditation, going to classes and courses and silent retreats. I began writing books and producing short films based on mindfulness themes. And then after over 20 years of study and practice, I started my role as head of mindfulness at Calm. And so, I'd love to see just a quick show of hands to see how many of you have meditated before. Okay, quite a few of you. And curious how many of you have used the Calm app. Awesome. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Calm, we're a mindfulness meditation app that you can download to your phone or you can access on the web. And we have a whole library of guided meditations on themes like stress and focus and gratitude. Our most popular feature is the Daily Calm, which is a new 10-minute meditation session that we release each day to keep your practice fresh. And we've also got sleep stories for people who can't sleep, and master classes, and a whole variety of other content. And my role for the last 3.5 years has been to write, produce, and narrate our mindfulness and meditation audio programs. And over the last few years, more and more people have been coming to our app. We're currently at almost 23 million downloads now. And when I consider the growth that we've had, I think it reflects the overwhelm that we're feeling in this fast-paced, chaotic world. We're looking for tools to help us navigate the challenges of day-to-day life. Challenges like disruption and deadlines in our workplace, breakups and illness in our personal lives, and day-to-day challenges like traffic and arguments and our never-ending to-do list. Right? And then, of course, every time we turn on the news or scroll through social media, there's turmoil and chaos. And all of this is leaving us anxious and overwhelmed. So today, I'd like to share 3 mindfulness teachings with you in the hopes that they can help you find grounding in those moments when it feels like the earth is falling beneath your feet. The first teaching is that mindfulness helps us slow down. So the conference theme this year is the race to excellence. And let's be clear, it feels like we are racing, right? A lot of the time in our careers, our organizations, and in our personal lives, right? For many of us, the sound of our morning alarm, it feels like a starting pistol, right? We jump out of bed and we race through our routine and we fly out the door. And then between meetings and deadlines and errands and all of our appointments, we're so busy rushing around that we can barely stop and catch our breath. And because we're so busy racing, we're missing out on the present moment. If you think about it, this moment, the moment that we're experiencing right now, this is the only moment we'll ever really have. And this is a big part of what mindfulness teaches us. Right? So that rather than always rushing towards the next thing, we're able to be fully present in the moment that we're in right now. And that way, when we're out to lunch with colleagues, we can be fully engaged in the conversation. And when we get home and our kid rushes up to us wanting to tell us something about dinosaurs, we're really listening. But easier said than done, right? The race is on. And we've been racing at this pace for so long that it's become a habit. Right? We're conditioned to believe that if we just keep going, we'll accomplish more and more. But that isn't really what happens, is it? We become exhausted We lose concentration, and then we miss details and make mistakes, yet we still push forward. There's a great quote by Anne Lamott that says, "Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you." We need to slow down. Mindfulness can help us recognize when we need to unplug. It helps us connect to the needs of our mind and our body. Often when we meditate, we'll recognize things that we hadn't noticed before, like a pain in our back, or emotion we're holding, or simply the fact that our mind is racing really quickly, right? So I'd like to share a tool with you that can help you to slow down, check in, and get present. It's called a mindfulness reminder, and here's how it works. So the idea is to decide on some kind of external cue that can help you to slow down and check in through the day. And it could be the creaky door in your office, or the sound of a car honking outside, or something as simple as putting a Post-it note on your wall that reads, "Take a breath." And then every time you hear that creaky door or see that Post-it note, it reminds you to slow down, check in, and get present, and see what's going on, right? You can ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? Where are my thoughts? Am I holding any tension or anxiety? Am I tired? What do I need right now? So a mindfulness reminder is an invitation to slow down, check in, and get present. Now, the race to excellence, it doesn't need to be a frantic race where we're stumbling and gasping for breath. It can be a calm, focused race where we're moving forward gracefully, one stride at a time, our attention focused, our breath full and deep. The second teaching is that mindfulness offers us choice. So there's this thing that we often do when we get really scared or angry or stressed. We take our adult composure and we throw it out the window. Right? When something in the world upsets us, like when a colleague drops the ball, or when our partner is rushing home late for dinner again, we become reactive, right? We say hurtful things, we make rash decisions. Several years ago, I produced a video. It was like a short promotional video. And I hired a friend of a friend. He was a video editor. And he'd agreed to my small budget and short turnaround time. And when he sent over the rough cut, it was, let's just say he took a very different direction, not one that I'd hoped for. And so I immediately composed an email to my friend who had recommended him, sharing my disappointment and frustration in all caps and exclamations. And then, of course, in my haste and to my horror, I accidentally sent the email to the video editor instead of my friend. And let's just say the project didn't get completed. Right? So this is what we do. Right? When we're upset, we react without thought. And it's only after we press send that we desperately wish that we had paused so that we could have responded to the situation more skillfully. Right? And this reactive tendency of ours, it goes well beyond emails. Right? Our basement floods and we lash out at our child, or our divorce papers arrive and we reach for a drink. And in that moment of intense emotion, we don't stop to say to ourselves, I'm feeling pretty upset right now, so maybe I should pause and calm myself down before I respond. No, our instinct is to react. we become mindless rather than mindful. There's a great definition of mindfulness that an 11-year-old came up with. He said, mindfulness means not hitting someone in the mouth. And I love this because what he's pointing out is that he's able to catch himself when he begins to get angry before he makes that punch. So mindfulness teaches us how to pause when we begin to get upset so that we can act rather than react. A useful analogy is to imagine that you're on a boat in the water, and the water represents your emotions. So when you're really upset, the waves become incredibly volatile, and they just begin throwing you around, and it's basically impossible to feel calm. Mindfulness helps you step off of the boat and onto the shoreline, so that rather than getting all swept up in your emotion, you're able to calmly step back and view what's happening from a distance. In that space between our emotion and our reaction to what's happening, we have choice. We can act rather than react. But of course, stopping to pause is really difficult, when we're dealing with intense emotion, right? So developing the skill of non-reactivity, it takes lots and lots of practice. And so we practice, we meditate. We close our eyes and we sit in silence, and we learn how to observe our thoughts and emotions and sensations without reacting to them. And we learn how to be with fear and anger and anxiety or pain, whatever's in our experience. We learn how to be with it all without reacting to it. And then, after we spend some time learning how to be non-reactive within our practice, we're able to take the quality of non-reactivity into our day-to-day life. So that when we're in a meeting and someone criticizes us, rather than getting all defensive, we're able to pause and recognize, okay, my heart's starting to beat really quickly, and my face is flushed, and I'm feeling really upset. So maybe right now isn't the best time to respond to this criticism. Maybe the most skillful thing that I could do right now is to take a few breaths and calm myself down, and then respond to the criticism when I'm a bit more calm after the meeting, right? So it really is ultimately about sneaking into that teeny space between our emotion and our reaction to it, right? It's in that narrow gap that we can step off of the boat and onto the shoreline. This is where we find choice. As Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in that response lies our growth and freedom. The third teaching is that mindfulness offers us stability. So when we face turbulence in our lives, whether it's in our family or career, or if we're dealing with kind of a health issue or even our finances, we scramble for solid ground. Right? We look for stability and solidity in whatever way we can find it. But the truth is, nothing is solid. Everything is transitory. Our cells, our bodies, our relationships, the seasons, right? Everything. One of the first things that we learn in meditation is the principle of impermanence, the law that everything is constantly changing. And so because we can't truly grasp on to anything solid in this unstable world, mindfulness can teach us how to make peace with impermanence and how to find stability within ourselves. So when I was in my early 20s, I went through a really difficult time. I was a struggling actor, I was behind on rent, and I'd just gone through a difficult breakup. And all of this led to chronic anxiety and a series of panic attacks. And the most intense one came one day when I was sitting at my kitchen table. And I was journaling in a notebook about the pros and cons of a stressful decision, the prospect of looking for a new career. And so I was sitting there feeling really stressed, writing in my notebook, and at one point my pen rolled across the table and it dropped onto the floor. And suddenly my brain froze, and it felt impossible to think. And there was this feeling like there was something that I was supposed to do, but I couldn't figure out what it was. It was like space was closing in around my brain. And as my anxiety began to intensify, I began panicking and hyperventilating. And I eventually dropped to the floor just to feel a sense of grounding. And I stayed there for a while, in a state of panic, wrestling with short breath, and trying to make my brain work again. Then finally, to calm myself down, I decided to take a few deep breaths. And as I lengthened my inhales and slowed down my exhales, little by little, my body began to relax. And my shoulders softened, and my heart rate slowed down, and my brain started to work a little better. I was able to think more clearly. And then I was finally able to realize that that thing that I was trying to figure out was to simply pick up the pen that had dropped to the floor. So it was really scary, being in this state of anxiety and overwhelm that I couldn't make my brain work, but I was able to find stillness in the breath. So mindfulness can help us find grounding by calling our attention back to our body when we deal with stress and anxiety. So, I know that a panic attack might seem like an extreme example, but really, we can apply these tools in a whole variety of situations, like when we're stuck in traffic, late for an important meeting, and totally stressed. Right? The breath can bring us back home. So I've been doing a lot of talking about meditation. I thought it would be really nice to actually take you through a short 6 to 8 minute meditation. Is that okay? Does that sound good? So if you've never meditated before, it's really easy. All you're going to have to do is close your eyes and relax back, and I'm going to guide you through the entire practice. So I'm just going to sit here with you. And to start, it would be great if everybody could just remove anything that's on your lap or in your hands. If you could just set it on the floor or place it beside you or in a bag. And then just place your feet firmly on the floor. And then find a comfortable position and close your eyes. And just rest your hands gently on your lap. And straighten your spine as best as you can to keep you alert and attentive. You can even imagine a string at the top of your head, pulling you nice and tall. So you want to feel alert, but relaxed. And there's been a lot of stimulation these last few days, so your mind may feel busy, and your body may feel tired. So just notice that as you begin to settle in and relax. And just soften any tension you might be holding in your face. relax your jaw. And feel into your throat, letting the front and back of your throat soften. And let your shoulders settle with ease. Allow your entire body to feel heavy and weighted. And now turn your awareness to your breath. And take a few full, deep breaths in and out. And just letting go of the day, letting go of any distractions or mental activity. For this very short time we have together, do your best to be right here, right now, with each breath, full and deep. And now gently allow your breath to fall into a natural rhythm. And just notice where you feel the breath most clearly in your body. You may notice it most strongly in the abdomen as it rises and falls. You might feel it in the chest as it expands and contracts. Or you might notice it most clearly in your nostrils, the cool air entering, the warm air releasing. Wherever you feel your breath most strongly, let that become your focus of attention. Just fix your attention there closely, attentively. Feel the breath flow in. Feel the breath flow out. And for the next 30 seconds, hold your attention on the sensation of each inhale and exhale. And if you hear any sounds that distract you, don't worry. There will be distractions. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. And the same goes if your attention begins to wander. If you begin daydreaming or feeling restless, know that it's okay. This is what happens. Our attention drifts away, and we gently pull it back. It drifts away, and we pull it back. Each time we come back to the breath, we're strengthening our muscle of awareness. So gently find your breath again and do your best to hold your attention there for this next 30 seconds of silence. Breath after breath after breath. And for these last few moments, see if you can expand your awareness into your whole body, feeling the breath fill you up. And as you breathe, feel the support of the earth below you. Feel a sense of groundedness and stability from within. Inhale the calming breath, the soothing breath. Exhale, feel a sense of grounding. Now, feel where your body connects with your chair. Gently wiggle your fingers and toes. And whenever you're ready, slowly open your eyes. And you can just relax. No matter what's going on in our lives, our breath and our body can serve as anchors, safe spaces to come home to again and again. As Paul McCartney said, meditation is a lifelong gift. It's something that we can call on at any time. So the next time you find yourself stressed or overwhelmed, recall this simple practice. Take a few deep breaths, feeling into the stability of the earth beneath you. And as you follow your breath, watch as your body and mind begin to relax. We don't practice mindfulness because it's easy or fun. We practice it because it teaches us how to deal with stress and uncertainty. And I don't come here today just sharing these tools with you as a mindfulness educator. I also share them as a human being who knows fear and anxiety and brokenness. For me, what I discovered was that meditation was medicine, and that it can help us keep calm and clear when we most need that in our lives. So my hope for today is that, like that day back in 1991, when I was first exposed to this practice, that you leave here with a flicker of curiosity. And that, in times that you need support, you can remember these three teachings. To slow down when you find yourself racing, to pause and find choice in times of stress, and to find grounding in times of instability. And there will be instability, right? When we least expect it, we'll get that phone call that sends life careening in a new direction. But our mindfulness practice can offer support in those times. No matter where we are, no matter how overwhelmed we feel or how unstable the world becomes, we can find the calm within the chaos. Our breath can bring us back home. Thank you.